There was a time when every Real Madrid fan credited much of their success to just one man. The man wasn't just a goalkeeper. He was the wall that carried Madrid through some of the most iconic Champions League runs ever. The man whose reflexes were unreal, whose clutch saves were legendary, and last but certainly not least, whose story was unbelievable. Because you see, Keylor Navas didn't come from football royalty, he came from the streets of Costa Rica, from a childhood where even owning gloves was a dream. Yet through pure talent and faith, he rose to become the final line of defense of the biggest club in the world. But behind all that glory also came betrayal. Despite winning everything, despite proving himself on every stage, and despite not wanting to play for any other club in the world, Navas was quietly replaced. Not because he declined, but because the club wanted something that he simply could not give them alone through his play. Navas' story isn't just about success, it's about loyalty, politics, and how sometimes even greatness alone isn't enough. So let me take you back to 2014 when a humble keeper from Levante signed for Real Madrid, not knowing that the same team he'd bring to glory would later turn its back on him. The year is 2014. Real Madrid had just won their long-awaited 10th Champions League title, and the team was stacked with global stars like Cristiano Ronaldo, Gareth Bale, Luka Modric, and Sergio Ramos, who were all at the peak of their powers. Yet there was one signing that Madrid made during the summer of this year that no one expected to have much impact. Iker Casillas was beginning to get old and already started to lose playing time to the likes of Antonio Adon and Diego Lopez. So Los Blancos brought in a 27-year-old goalkeeper from Costa Rica named Keylor Navas for 10 million euros. He wasn't a flashy signing, he didn't come from a football superpower, and at first glance, he didn't fit the Galactico image that Florentino Perez loved to build. But what no one realized back then was that this humble, soft-spoken goalkeeper was about to become the backbone of one of the greatest dynasties in modern football. But oddly enough, he would also become one of the most betrayed players in the history of the game. You see, this all started in June 2014 in Brazil. Keylor Navas' move to Real Madrid began with an unforgettable World Cup performance. Representing Costa Rica, he shocked the football world as his heroics against Italy, England, and Uruguay helped his country not only get out of what many considered to be the group of death, but also finish in first place. Then he did his job against Greece, helping Costa Rica win the round of 16 in a penalty kick shootout. After this, he kept a clean sheet against one of the best teams in the world, the Netherlands, only to lose that match in penalty kicks. But despite this loss, Navas led the heavy underdogs, Costa Rica, to their best ever World Cup finish, and he was named one of the tournament's standout goalkeepers, making impossible saves and carrying his team past giants while absolutely no one going into the tournament expected this type of performance from him or his country. So, seemingly overnight, he became a symbol of belief and resilience, catching the attention of Real Madrid in the process. So they signed him shortly after the tournament, and at first, he was meant to be a backup to Iker Casillas, learning the ropes and waiting for his chance. But believe it or not, destiny had other plans. The thing is, the end of the Casillas era was near, and in 2015, Casillas officially left the club after 25 years to join Porto, and his emotional farewell left a massive void between the posts. So suddenly, Keylor Navas was the man stepping into the most pressurized goalkeeping job in the world. Yet, the Costa Rican handled it with grace, and in his first full season as Madrid's #1, he didn't just fill the role, he redefined it as he eventually went on to become the first Central American goalkeeper to play in and win a Champions League final. And what's even crazier is that during that 2015-16 Champions League campaign, he didn't concede a single goal in his first 8 appearances. So by the end of the tournament, he had kept 9 clean sheets in 11 matches and lifted his first Champions League trophy with Madrid, becoming adored by fans, respected by teammates, and feared by strikers across Europe. But behind the scenes, Real Madrid was already preparing a move that could have ended his time at the club before that first Champions League final even happened. What I mean is that in August 2015, barely a year after signing him, Real Madrid made a deal with Manchester United to bring in David de Gea, while the agreement would send Keylor Navas the other way. The paperwork was ready, the numbers were agreed upon, and the swap was set to go through. But then chaos happened. The deal collapsed at the very last minute because of a technical failure, a fax machine error to be specific. So the transfer documents were submitted too late, missing Spain's midnight deadline. And just like that, the move was dead. So Keylor Navas was staying in Madrid. It was one of the most bizarre transfer stories in football history, as the fax machine fiasco made headlines around the world. And for Navas, it was both a blessing and a curse. He later admitted that he cried when he found out Madrid had tried to ship him off, as he said, "I didn't want to leave. I cried that night." But little did anyone know at the time, that small fax machine error would become a huge reason why Real Madrid went on to make history. As it turns out, after that chaotic summer, Real Madrid appointed new manager Zinedine Zidane. And Zidane, unlike others in the club's hierarchy, believed in Keylor Navas. Under Zidane's leadership, Navas became untouchable. He was the quiet hero behind Real Madrid's historic Champions League performances for the next few years. He was the #1 choice going into every season, while he consistently performed at world-class levels each year. In the 2017-18 semi-final against Bayern Munich, Navas made 8 saves in the second leg alone, his highest tally in a knockout match. Even Bayern's manager, Jupp Heynckes, praised him as the reason Real Madrid reached the final, and by the end of 2018, Navas had won 3 Champions Leagues in a row, increasing his total to 12 trophies with Madrid in competitions like the Champions League, La Liga, the UEFA Super Cup, the Spanish Super Cup, and the FIFA Club World Cup. So he had achieved basically everything he could with Madrid, except for the Copa del Rey, although that competition has always seemed to be Madrid's Achilles heel. But the cruel reality was, no matter how much he won, Real Madrid's board never fully accepted him. And to understand why, you have to look at the culture of Real Madrid. It wasn't just about performance, it was about image. Florentino Perez, the club president, loved signing superstars, players who sold shirts, filled stadiums, and looked like global icons. Keylor Navas wasn't that. He wasn't tall like some other goalkeepers, he wasn't from a big European nation, and he didn't have commercial appeal. Yet every time he was doubted, he proved them wrong. And on top of this, he had something that was very important going for him. Zidane, one of the greatest footballers ever, believed in him, and he even refused to replace him when Madrid tried to sign Kepa in 2018, as he stood firm saying, "I don't need another goalkeeper, I trust Keylor." So that loyalty was rare, and Navas rewarded it with performances that defined an era. However, Zidane's departure in 2018 opened the door for Madrid's next and final betrayal. Truth be told, when Zidane resigned in May 2018, Real Madrid was at a crossroads. Cristiano Ronaldo left soon after, and the team's leadership felt the need for change. And that summer, Real Madrid signed Thibaut Courtois from Chelsea for €35 million. Courtois had just won the Golden Glove at the World Cup, and to Perez, he was a superstar signing, as he was not just a great goalkeeper, he was tall, Belgian, and marketable. And when the signing happened, Keylor Navas knew what it meant. He told reporters, "I have as much enthusiasm for leaving Madrid as I do for dying." It was his way of saying he would fight for his place, but the writing was already on the wall. Under new manager Julen Lopetegui and later Santiago Solari, Courtois became the automatic first choice, as Navas was suddenly demoted to cup matches, rarely seeing any time in goal during La Liga play, quickly going from being the hero of 3 straight Champions League titles to being benched without much explanation. But the most painful part wasn't losing his starting spot, it was how badly he was treated while it happened. Under Santiago Solari's management in 2018 and 2019, Navas's humiliation reached its peak. Despite training hard and staying professional, he was frozen out completely, and the breaking point came during Real Madrid's final Champions League group stage match against CSKA Moscow. The team had already qualified, so Solari rotated the entire lineup except for one player, who ended up being Keylor Navas, as he still didn't play a single minute. And after the match, Navas admitted, "It was quite ugly. We were already qualified, so almost all my teammates got a chance to play, but I did not. It was difficult to accept." He said he knew that no matter how well he trained, it wouldn't matter. His fate was already decided, and sooner than later, he would be sold by Madrid. But just when everything seemed lost, out of nowhere, Navas seemed as if he was about to get another chance, and it started to feel like a redemption was possible, since in March 2019, Zinedine Zidane returned as Real Madrid's manager, and during his very first match back, he led Los Blancos to a 2-0 win over Celta Vigo, with Keylor Navas back in goal, who was very emotional that day. He later said, "I was very emotional when I saw my name in the starting lineup. It was the first time in a long time that he felt seen again," as Zidane also defended him in public, saying, "I can't contemplate him leaving. He's always been a vital player for us." So everything started looking hopeful once again for the distraught goalkeeper. But sadly, things wouldn't last good for too long, and what came next was the final betrayal. It was the moment that ended one of the most successful but painful chapters in Real Madrid's modern history, since privately, Zidane knew the situation had changed. Florentino Perez had already decided. Courtois was the future, and Zidane's hands were tied. Even the man who had protected Navas for years couldn't save him this time. The board was just too stubborn, and to be fair, Courtois' play was also remarkable, but his marketability made all the difference in the world. So by the summer of 2019, Real Madrid officially told Keylor Navas that he would no longer be in their plans, and despite Zidane's preference to keep him, the board had made up its mind. Courtois was untouchable. So on September 2nd, 2019, Navas was sold to Paris Saint-Germain for around 15 million euros. Additionally, in return, PSG's backup goalkeeper, Areola, joined Madrid on loan in a cold, business-like transfer. While Real Madrid's farewell message was short and emotionless, there was no tribute video, no heartfelt goodbye, just a brief statement confirming the deal. For a player who had won 12 trophies in 5 years, including 3 straight Champions Leagues, that farewell felt like a slap in the face. But even after leaving Madrid, Navas' story was far from over, because months after the move, Navas finally spoke out. He said, "There are things that happened and I don't know why they happened, but they did." He thanked the fans and Zidane, but admitted the treatment broke him. As he went on to say, "I went from winning 3 Champions League trophies to not playing. It was very hard to understand." Still, he never insulted the club, never sought revenge, and never lashed out. He simply moved on and kept performing. And at PSG, Navas continued to show his class, as in his first season, he helped the club reach his first ever Champions League final, as his saves percentage was one of the highest in Europe, even better than Courtois in Madrid at the time. But speaking of betrayals, lots of fans felt betrayed by the suspicious officiating that happened during the 2002 World Cup, which led many people to think the tournament was actually rigged. Feel free to check out that video right now.